The cabin stood alone at the edge of a long gravel road that no one used anymore, a place measured not in miles from town, but in silence from everything that came before. 7 years had passed since Ethan last locked his door expecting someone to return. 7 winters of wood smoke, worn boots, and mornings that began without voices. He preferred it that way, or at least, that's what he had taught himself to believe. The only sound that mattered now was the soft rhythm of paws across the wooden floor and the occasional creak of the old fence that marked the boundary between his world and the rest of it. Ranger lay near the door, a broad-chested German shepherd with a silver-grey coat that caught the firelight like frost on steel, his ears always listening to something deeper than the wind. He had been still for most of the evening, head resting between his paws, eyes half closed in that quiet vigilance only working dogs ever truly kept, but sometime after the fire burned low, something changed. It wasn't a bark that broke the silence, not at first. It was the absence of stillness. Ranger lifted his head slowly, ears rising to full attention, his amber eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the door as if he were listening to a voice Ethan couldn't hear. The air shifted, not colder, not louder, just different. Ethan noticed the change the way a man learns to notice the smallest signs after years of needing to survive them. He didn't speak. He simply watched the dog. Ranger stood, steady and deliberate, then walked toward the door with a purpose that carried weight. His nails tapped softly against the wood, each step measured, certain. He didn't look back. He didn't hesitate. When he reached the door, he stopped and waited. Ethan exhaled slowly, setting his mug down on the rough-hewn table. "What is it, boy?" he murmured, though his voice stayed low, careful not to disturb whatever moment had already begun. Ranger didn't respond with sound. Instead, he leaned forward slightly, nose close to the seam of the door, body tense in a way Ethan had only seen a handful of times before. Not fear. Not aggression. Recognition. That was what unsettled him most. Ethan rose, pulling his worn jacket from the back of the chair, the fabric stiff from years of cold mornings and colder nights. He moved toward the door with the quiet caution of someone who had learned that answers rarely came without consequence. The latch clicked softly beneath his hand, and for a brief second, he hesitated. Not because he was afraid of what might be outside, but because something in the way Ranger stood told him that whatever waited there had already crossed a line long before he opened the door. The night air slipped in as the door creaked open, sharp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and distant